Kyle Larson survives 2 crashes, the mistake that will leave Chad Boat and Daison Pursley wondering what if, drivers DQ'd over failed tire tests, and the Lucas season is off and rolling. Let's go. It's Sunday, January 19th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. Certainly an entertaining last few days of racing across the sport. We obviously had Chili Bowl rolling along, plus the start of the Lucas season at Golden Isles. We'll start first today with action at the Chili Bowl. It turned into a sketchy feature with Kyle Larson and Daison Pursley running in the fluff over the cushion, and Larson somehow surviving not 1, but 2 crashes to win his 3rd Golden Driller. With 17 to go, Jacob Denny and Brenham Crouch tangled in front of Larson, and he ended up riding over the top of Crouch's car. He managed to escape that one without any major damage. And then with 3 laps to go, he almost junked it at the start-finish line, riding up on the wall and getting big time sideways. He sort of got saved by the caution as they threw it for debris on the track. The NOS banners on the front stretch wall had been torn off, and they were just laying in the middle of the track. Pursley would have had a chance, I think, there, but obviously all of that was negated. At the end, Pursley not able to mount a big enough charge to try a slider, and Larson went back to victory lane for the first time since 2021. Pursley ended up second, with Shane Golubic making some late moves to third. Matt Wood owned cars, finishing 3rd, 4th, and 5th between Golubic, Ryan Bernal, and Landon Brooks. Buddy Kofoid went 14th to 6th. Logan Seavey ended up 7th after winning the last 2 years, while Christopher Bell and Corey Day were 10th and 11th. Tim Buckwalter, the night's hard charger, he went 22nd to 13th. In terms of the battle for the win, it's hard to look past what happened in the pole shuffle and wonder what would have been different had Pursley started up front. He advanced all the way from the first group in that pole shuffle to Group 8. And he actually ended up being faster than Landon Brooks in that 8th group, but his car ran out of fuel. So they advanced Brooks to face Larson in the 9th and final group. Obviously, Larson goes on to take the pole. Along the way, though, nobody had anything for Pursley's pace, and there's a very good chance that I think Larson didn't have the speed to match Pursley if the car doesn't run out. It took Pursley some time in the main event to work by Landon Brooks, starting 3rd, and then obviously he couldn't get by Larson. I know about all of that stuff about ifs and buts. We're candy nuts. We'd all have a Merry Christmas. But Pursley, Chad Boat, they're going to be left wondering today, what if? The other storyline we followed all week in Tulsa was the more stringent tech process that was brought about by event tech director Cody Cordell this year. We talked last week about the additional tire sampling, the checks for legal frames and other safety stuff, and traction control. And before the event was over, things did advance to the point of people being kicked out and DQ'd. Before Saturday even got started, there was talk of someone being kicked out of the expo for prepping tires, although it sounded like it was just the person who got booted and not a team or a car or a driver. I still don't have the full story or know the name on that one. It was talked about during one of the drivers' meetings, and I've sent some messages around, but just not a lot of details. And then yesterday afternoon came the Blue Ridge Labs report showing 2 samples not meeting the benchmark from previous days. And those 2 samples belong to the cars driven by Clinton Boyles and Hunter Schoenberg. Both were DQ'd for Saturday's action. I do want to give some credit to Boyles here, though, as he went on camera on Float and talked about the situation with Cordell. Boyles said he did some wet grinding on the tires with Simple Green, and that was enough to get flagged on the report. Cordell explained that it doesn't take much to alter the chemical compound of the tire, and really anything more than water could show up after that wet grinding process. Cordell did say from the lab graphs that it was clear Boyles wasn't kind of quote-unquote doping the tire, which is, I think, what a lot of people talk about with this type of testing. But other things like this grinding process can make these tires fail. Boyles said the tire was ground a month ago in advance of coming to Tulsa before it was packed up. Both Schoenberg and Boyles are going to be allowed to race next season, but over the next few days, if any other samples come back as failed, which would mean drivers from the Thursday and Friday prelims and Saturday's full program all day, they won't be allowed to run in 2026. Cordell made that clear in a drivers meeting earlier in the week. So it's very possible we are not done with this tech story from the Chili Bowl. We'll see what else pops up in the coming days. I do think it's also worth pointing out we had no rubber down racetracks this year. Obviously, they shortened the Saturday feature down to 40 laps from 55, but there was never even a hint of rubber on the track. That feels like it might not be a coincidence. Feel free to leave your comments below on the whole event, Larson's win, Pursley's fuel issue, the tech process, whatever you feel like. Down at Golden Isles, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series season and Speed Weeks as a whole got rolling on Friday with race number 1. Even with some threatening weather for the rest of the weekend, they still had 44 cars in attendance. There was one notable absence, though, from the weekend, and that was Mike Marlar. There'd been talk he was back with Lucas full-time coming into the weekend, but that suddenly he didn't show up to Golden Isles. In a Kyle McFadden story from yesterday, car owner Greg Bruening said he and Marlar had a lengthy discussion, and Marlar decided he's not running either tour in 2025. He's going to instead go pick and choose and focus on events that work best for him. Definitely a last-minute adjustment, it sounds like, and you have to wonder if it's tied to Marlar's performances at the Wild West Shootout. 5 races, but just 2 top 10s. He had runs of 14th, 19th, and 22nd otherwise. That's not what you would expect at an event like that from a guy like Marlar. In an interesting twist, Marlar's teammate and Tyler Bruening started on the Friday pole, and even though he fell back to 4th or 5th at one point, rallied late and scored his first career National Tour victory. And he did it by driving by Brandon Overton, outrunning Devin Moran, and holding Jonathan Davenport off at the end. This wasn't a freight train on a rubber-down track. This was Bruening fast and making moves. Davenport ended up 2nd and Overton was 3rd. The Saturday and Sunday shows at Brunswick, they were rained out, so Speed Weeks now shifts to Volusia this week for the World of Outlaws opener, which starts on Wednesday. Lucas, as a series, is off until January 29th at Alltech. I'm assuming that not all Speed Week shows count again for Lucas, so that's been the case in the previous years. You get to a certain point, you can start throwing out. You only keep your so many best finishes. If that's true, it's good news for guys like Hudson O'Neal and Ricky Thornton Jr. Both were not running at the finish on Friday. Neither were particularly fast to start either. Brandon Shepard, he needed a big charge to salvage a 7th place run after starting 19th. And this was his first night back in the Rocket House car. I'm going to leave the overreaction Sunday to other people, but I just wanted to point those out. Interesting to note as well that Ricky Thornton Jr. now has basically a completely new crew. He's got Nathan Sletto as crew chief. And RTJ, he won the Lucas title with Chris Madden in charge, then captured the Flow title like a couple weeks later with Ricky Arnold handling the crew chief duties, but Arnold has since departed Kohler Motorsports, and now Sletto comes in. Sletto previously wrenched on RTJ's mods, and he's joined on the crew by new guy Zach Frields. Tire guy DJ has left the team as well. So wholesale changes to RTJ's squad as he begins his title defense. That's probably going to be something to pay attention to as these guys get rolling. Can they mesh? Can they keep RTJ in the fight? Or is it going to take them too long, especially against this super stacked Lucas lineup? We'll wrap the daily right there for today. We're going to be following a bunch of stuff this week as more sprint car full-timers are expected with both High Limit and the Outlaws. We'll also talk the late model rosters and Speed Weeks continuing, and then anything else that pops up in the coming days. Hope you guys have a great Sunday out there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.